Hello everybody, welcome to episode 135 of Show Fever. Today we'll be going over chapter 1183 of the One Piece manga. That chapter starts off with Loki, Ragnar, and Uemu continuing their battle that we see has been going on for a couple of chapters now. And we see they just continue to clash and all that. We see that Emu mentions how Ragnar has been looking for someone capable of returning like a favor, not returning a favor, but like returning the favor as in beating Emu. And we then see that Emu mentions about how Luffy and Loki would never be soldiers for Emu, so he must erase them, just like a character by the name of Dozon. That name sounds familiar for some reason, but I don't believe we've ever heard it before. I presume it's a god or something like that, or someone during Emu's time, obviously. But yeah, so after that, we end up getting a perspective of Zaza, where we see that Zaza's kind of taking all the children and all that. She ultimately ends up grabbing 7, as we see that Killingham mentions. And we see as all the giant parents are trying to fight and all that, but they're very heavily wounded, but they're willing to sacrifice their lives for their children. But yeah, so then we get to like the meat of the chapter, where we see as we actually get a perspective of the lesser Straw Hats, I guess I'll say. And they're all discussing with Brook about who the person in the ice was. And he mentions about how she was a celestial dragon, and he says if it's the person I believe it is, then they would be 77 years old. And obviously, Gunko in the ice looks youthful and all that, so how could she be 77 years old? So he's talking about it and all of that, but Brooks ultimately like, yeah, I remember seeing her when she left, she was leaving to Marie Joie, so he's just slowly discussing this, and ultimately we see as Jinbei is ready for the smoke. He's like, alright, Brooke, I need you to be real with me. You're going to have to tell me urgently if this person is a ally or a foe, because that's to determine if we need to kill her or not. So yeah, Jinbei's out for blood. But yeah, so we see that continue to discuss until ultimately Brook enters a flashback. We have the second flashback now of the Elbaf arc. And we see, as we go back to a kingdom 70 years ago now, known by the name of Asperia. Now this kingdom is the instrument-making kingdom, or the kingdom of instrument makers. And we see that we go back to a time when Brook was 20 years old, and he was in Asperia, and we see that he is widely renowned in Asperia for his sword skill and also his kind of bad music. But yeah, so we see as he has grown, he has got the attention of little Princess Shuri, who is 7 years old, and she has the same eyes as Gunko, so we know this is young Gunko. Or presumably young Gunko. But yeah, so we see this, and we see as they kind of play around, we get introduced more to the Kingdom of Asperia and all of that. We see Brook at one point jumping around the city, and he looks like Nika in one scene. That'll probably be the thumbnail of this video. But yeah, so we see all this stuff playing out in Asperia, which is the homeland of Brook, as he mentions. It is where he comes from, where he was born. And so we see as Brook is talking with Shuri, and we see that she mentions that her mom is very powerful and that Brook is very attracted to her mom. But then as they're walking through this garden, we see as Shuri's father, Leovan, who is the king of Asperia, since Shuri is the princess of Asperia, ends up butting. He's like, yo, bro, quit hitting on my wife. And he's like, you'll get executed for treason for that. And like, Bruce, you're gonna assassinate me, Majesty, bro. And he continually refers to Leovan as bro. But yeah, so we see this play out, and then afterwards, they get talking, and ultimately Shuri's like, you need to quit focusing on my mother, but one day when I grow up, I'll be your wife. And Brook goes, nah, I don't like snotty-nosed women. And then Leovan gets mad again. He's like, that's something you should be saying to your father at your age. And then he gets mad at Brook for having denied his daughter. But yeah, so then we see as an emissary comes in and tells Leovan, yo, there are people looking for the queen whose name is Candela. And they are demanding her at the opera house, and they come to the opera house to acquire her. And he's like, okay, pull up the snails, but all the snails are on Do Not Disturb at the opera house. So we see as ultimately it's announced that this is the Mauron family. And the Mauron family is a kind of like mafia family, because the head of it's referred to as Don Mauron. And we see as everyone's sitting out there and they're like, yo, Candela, you got to get out of here and come and be with Don Mauron, because he's been after Candela for years. And Brook mentions about how he ran into him at the port today and all that. So yeah, so after this, we see as ultimately the events kind of play out, and Candela ultimately ends up walking out of the opera house. All the people just suddenly fall dead. They're like, yo, what happened to all these people? Or fall wounded. And we see that, in fact, Brook had essentially set a slash on them on all of them prior when he was in the port, and it's called 3-pace humming singing slash or something like that. I can't remember. I don't know if it was singing, but yeah. he used this slash that essentially lingered on them for multiple hours until he could eventually take them out when they attempted to attack Queen Candela. And we see that Queen Candela comes out, and obviously she is renowned for her beauty, so we see the people like fawning over her and all that. And she has a really cool design, honestly. Candela has one of the most unique female designs we've seen in One Piece in a while. So I was really glad to see that. Like, she looks cool. Like, she looks like a holy knight. And we see that she is, in fact, was the previous head of the Royal Guard. And she is one of two people that are widely renowned throughout Asperia at the moment. And the other person is Brook, who is the leader of the Raiders, something another corps. So he's renowned for his battle, merit as well. But yeah, so we see that, and that's really where the chapter ends. And honestly, I'm really ready to see where this plays out. I'm ready to see what significance Candela has to get such a grand entrance as she did in this chapter. And I'm also ready to see how this plays out with Brook. Now, I do dislike that it's in between this massive fight that we're getting between Loki and Emu, but I feel like it's a perfect little intersection because I do feel like some of the steam has been slowly lost of the Loki and Emu fight. So this will kind of give us a brief intersection. So then once we get back into it, we'll all be like, yeah, we're ready to see more Loki versus Emu. But yeah, honestly, I'm also ready to figure out who Dozon might have possibly been because he was erased by Emu from history. So I really don't know. I'm really ready to see who that is. And I'm ready to see more of Zaza, obviously, because Zaza, I mean, I don't believe they're going to have her just kidnap kids to be a literal god who is summoned here by killing him. So, yeah, I don't really know how that's going to play out, but I don't believe she'll play a minor part. Like, I believe they're going to do more with Zaza than just have her capture these kids. Like, maybe she'll turn on killing him or something like that. I really don't know. But yeah, I'm just really ready to see all this. I'm ready to see how Shuri ended up becoming Gunko and how she ended up being a celestial dragon. Like, I'm really excited for this flashback because it's honestly one of my most anticipated flashbacks for Elbaf, and I'm so glad it actually finally came because I knew we were going to have to learn about the connection between Gunko and Brook once we saw that connection with them and them getting released by Gunko and all that. So I'm just really ready to see it play out here. But yeah, that's all there really was for chapter 1183 of One Piece. That's all I really have for episode 135 of Shelf Reviews. Thank you very much for watching.